What is the difference in price between Google and other search engines like Microsoft's Bing? Well, nothing, you might say, because you don't pay for either. But of course you do. You provide information that they use. It is a transaction where something is expected of you. In the digital age, how do we assess all of that? How do we assess our digital choices? John Penrose, the Conservative MP, is author of a report into consumer rights that recommends an update to competition law for the digital age. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Jason.
And just using the search engines first, it is interesting, isn't it? Because we just don't, it's almost in our minds, isn't it? We don't think of ourselves as buying something.
Absolutely right. And of course, as you said rightly in your introduction, it all costs us something. We pay for it in our data rather than with cash. And if you don't know what you're paying, you don't know what the price of something that you're buying is, then how do you know if it's a rip-off or a really good deal? And how do you compare it to one of the rival search engines or a rival piece of Wi-Fi or whatever it might be to know whether or not you could get a better deal if you switch to one of the other potential suppliers?
So how do we become more transparent, or how do the platforms, how do all the digital things we use become more transparent? How do we force that to happen?
But the answer is at the moment that no one quite knows. One of the points that I'm making in this report, which is out this morning, is called Power to the People, because we need, you and I and everybody listening to your program, we need to know more about what we're getting and what it's costing us in order for us to be able to make informed choices. And some of us will then say, do you know what, I'm really happy with Google or I'm really happy with Bing. But until we know, we've got to work out how we get that information in front of us when we're setting up the defaults on our new computer or new phone or whatever it may be, to say, right, I'm usually going to use Bing or I'm usually going to use Google or whatever it may be. When you're setting those things up or when you want to change them, you need to be able to make that decision with all the facts in front of you. And at the moment, we haven't got one of the most important ones, which is the price.
And in doing that, we are not only losing some degree of control, you are saying, but also actually potentially allowing services that are not the best to be the ones that we use. In other words, there is a real loss to us. It's not just that, oh, well, we can't be bothered. We're actually losing something. Is that it?
Absolutely right. Now, I mean, most of us are busy people, and so most of the time we don't have a chance to read all the small print. But if you can tell what something costs, if you go to a supermarket and you're choosing a loaf of bread, you can compare it to the one on the left or the right of it on the same shelf. You can't do that with an awful lot of things, an awful lot of the services that happen online. And if we could make informed choices. It will be the same that we expect in all the other areas of our lives. And I think we're entitled to know, well, why not?
I suspect the government will look at your report and say, well, that's fascinating, but actually there are all sorts of other priorities. I mean, how realistic is it that the things that you suggest we need to have done can be done relatively quickly?
This one is a difficult problem which is emerging because of the digital revolution. So it's not something which we've got an answer for today or even tomorrow, but we need to start thinking about it because it's going to loom larger and larger. But there's a whole range of other things that we can and should be doing. And the report's stuffed full of other things we could do tomorrow on anything from energy and water and gas all the way through to how do you get your own get redress if you're a consumer who's been ripped off, which ombudsman, which court do you have to go to if it really comes down to it. A whole load of other things that we can do just to give consumers more rights, give consumers more choice. And if you make the customer king, then companies have to work harder, and that means that we all get a better deal.
I suppose that's the point, isn't it? At a fundamental level, it is making us aware that we own our data, and in a sense, possibly in the longer term, formalizing that.
Potentially so. Or they might turn around and say, actually, we don't, the price is less important if it's all free in cash. But the question is how much data you're giving away. I mean, every time you and I sign up to a bit of public Wi-Fi in a hotel or in a railway station, we've no idea if we're giving away a lot of data or just a little bit for the 10 minutes while we're waiting for our next meeting or for the train to leave. We've no idea how much data we're giving away. Wouldn't it be good if we could make that choice at the moment when we're deciding to log on or sign up, and we can make it with information in an informed way and decide, actually, I want this one, not that one, because it's a better deal.
John Penrose, MP, thank you very much.